Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another episode of Talk with Antonio. I'm your host, Antonio. It is 9 p.m. I just want to wish you all a happy Halloween and a very safe Halloween. Don't overstuff yourself with candy. Stay safe, people. And for today's episode, I will be talking about something that really caught my eye today. It's official today on Halloween that DoorDash right now has made a policy that I think they should have done this a long time ago. Okay, as you all know, I think I've mentioned this in my past episodes that I recorded. Sorry if I sound with my nose stuff. Is because I have been under the weather because of all the Santa. Since I live in Southern California, the Santa Ana winds are you know how they bring all this crap, all this dust and disease and all that stuff. I'm not sick though. It's not COVID, by the way, thank goodness. But I'm like all stuff right now, and as you can hear it. Okay, as you all know, I work as a delivery driver for DoorDash, and pardon me. I have like always voiced my my issues in terms of like when it comes to tipping. As I said before, tipping is not an obligation, people. It's not. However, though, I do believe that tipping culture has been a little bit out of control because a friend of mine, before I get started with what I saw with DoorDash implementing like a tip policy. It's not really a tip policy. It's just like a rule now. I'm going to read what my friend sent me. My friend Gilbert, the one who I had an interview a while back, I was talking to him about, like, you know how in terms of delivery driving, ever since the pandemic ended, tipping has been like very low. And he sent me an article. It says self-checkout machines have begun asking for tips. It says here, and I quote, self-serving kiosks with preset tip amounts are becoming more common in airports, coffee shops, restaurants, and stadiums. Okay, when it comes to coffee shops and restaurants, that's basically like it falls into the category of delivery driving. But airports and stadiums, okay, that's a different story right there. And it says here that merchants are using these kiosks to generate more revenue as customers often feel compelled to tip even when they haven't interacted with a human worker. Some people are questioning the necessity and the destination of this extra money. What do you think of this? And I read all the comments. Some have said this: pro tip, if you aren't being served, don't tip. What do I think? I think they should tip. You should tip for checking yourself out. Okay, some people say, shit, you got to tip me if I'm self-checking out. Some said that, how about they add an option for a 30% tip back onto my cart for checking and bagging my own stuff. Getting sick and tired of this tipping BS. I will be tipping. The machines will remember my kindness when they are in charge. Others said, you can watch the tip of my finger as I hit no. Where's my discount? Good luck with that. If I see this evolving to a super carrot on the spot, they are not getting free handouts. Okay. It's like all these crazy, wacky comments I've been seeing. Okay. The one person said, if you aren't being served by I think they were saying this if you're not being served by a human being. Okay. When it comes to like, I don't know if this has reached here in supermarkets because, you know, I live here in the San Fernando Valley. The Food for Less here, they used to have, they did not have self-checkouts before, but now it's becoming more common right now. And that right there, ladies and gentlemen, is causing for other like cashiers like to give like human beings less jobs. They're relying more on these self-checkout cashiers. But you know, years ago when I used to work in the supermarket business, this is something that I've always discussed with my loved ones. How is it possible that they have all these cash registers? No, I'm sorry, these cashiers. There's only one or two booth open, but there's like a bunch of them, but there's only two open. And I've always asked that to my parents, and my parents say it's because they don't want to pay. They don't want to pay more cashiers, which I think is absolutely ridiculous. And now they're doing all these with the self checkout cash registers, which I think is absolutely ridiculous. It's giving human beings less jobs. Even though when I used to work in the supermarket business, I was never a cashier, but when I see that they're using more self checkouts, I do not agree with that. And now today, in regards to DoorDash, I think I'm sorry, people. I'm so sorry, people. Okay. Today, DoorDash implemented a new rule, and this is what it says, and I quote, "Orders with no tip might take longer to get delivered. Are you sure you want to continue? Dashers can pick and choose which orders they want to. Orders that take longer to be accepted by Dashers tend to result in a slower delivery." And it says, "Add tip or continue without tip." Okay. And right now, especially on Twitter, it's like a mixed opinion thing. Okay, there's this one chick who right now has her profile on private. Her name is Brown Skin Honey Bun. It says here, this is what she said. You know how she deleted and made her profile private, but you know how they say the internet doesn't forget. And this is what she said, and I quote, "So basically DoorDash trying to force us to give tips." And apparently she's been roasted by this. One fellow said this, and I quote, "No, they are telling you that the DoorDash drivers who are not employees, they're independent contractors, have the ability to decide what orders to accept or not accept. And they're simply sharing you the fact that if the drivers in the area see your cheap ass isn't tipping, they're going to decline to burn their gas money driving 10 miles picking up your Chipotle." Other people say this, if you regularly use DoorDash, you can pay their monthly pass, which is $9.99 a month. It waives the delivery fees. This saves you so much per order. You can pay a driver a few bucks as a tip, and your food will still be less than if you don't have the pass. Another person said this, "I'm not tipping before I get service. I will not be using DoorDash or any of them. DoorDash needs to pay mileage or something to the drivers, but these corporations pay slave wages, then cause beef with the customer and driver when it's the fall of neither." Okay. This person said this, and I completely agree with him. Okay. One time, my mom used DoorDash to see how much they charge you, and oh my fucking God. DoorDash will charge you an arm and a leg. All these fees, tax, how much you want to, all these other extra charges just for you to deliver food to your house. And yet, this is something that I've always air my grievances with DoorDash, and it's in regards to why is it that the people who don't tip at all are trying to especially DoorDash. I think DoorDash has been paying attention because in the past, specifically in Burbank, as of late. I don't work there anymore. But Burbank, I used to get Taco Bell orders. In the Calabasas, Northridge area, I get Taco Bell orders, but they pay pretty decent. But in Burbank, I noticed that there was always $3 to $4 orders. And that's no tip, by the way. for 2 miles? Give me a fucking break. And then when you declined them, they kind of like force you to take that shit. And I always kept declining over and over. And I remember one time, I think it was about, this is another thing that I have an issue with DoorDash, is they make you drive all the way out of the area with no extra money for gas or anything. Especially, I'll give you an example. In Malibu, where I work, there's a place called Just for Dogs. It's a dog food place, and I remember they wanted to make me a delivery from Malibu to Thousand Oaks for $23, and I believe it was like 25 miles. I'm like, nope, and I kept denying it, and they tried to force me to take it. And that's another thing that I have an issue with DoorDash. And I think if what they're doing right now in terms of tipping, I think DoorDash should really, really, really pay attention to the acceptance rate, because I've read on Reddit a lot that the acceptance rate should be illegal, and I do agree, because why is it that I spoke to DoorDash about a while back? They're telling me that I'm not a top dasher because of my acceptance rate. And I find that very, very stupid. And I say stupid, pardon me. It was I just drank some water. And I find it stupid because why is it that that corporation tries to make people take the orders no matter how cheap it is? My girl told me that, she says, if you were like to, not to be like somewhat picky, but just take a certain orders like for $6 or even like, I'll even take like $6.75, which is okay, or $7 for and over. I would take them, but like $3, $4, $5 orders, no, that's fucking unacceptable. And this is another thing I read. This is another comment that made me think a lot. DoorDash is basically telling you to tip or don't use the service. LOL. Ain't nobody picking up food for $2. Non-tippers is a loss for the restaurant and DoorDash because the food is thrown out because no one will pick up the order. I have never, and the same person who wrote about the tipping said this. I have never insulted anyone with a $2 tip. Even in a restaurant, I've tipped at least $10 to $15 or more. And this person appreciates that. And you know, this is the one thing I have encountered with celebrities. And they are like the most cheapest motherfuckers on this planet. And I'll give you an example. A while back, I was working in back then it was still Studio City, Burbank. It used to be one giant area. I remember one time, I think it was like around May or April of 2019, I was picking up an order at Denny's here in North Hollywood to deliver an amount of Studio City, I believe, for some fucking rapper named 2K Baby. And this dude ordered a lot of food. And I remember I got there and I delivered it, no problem. And DoorDash paid me, I believe it was, I think I said $13. And DoorDash paid me $12. And this fucker tipped me $1. Can you believe that? And this fucker, I'm going to say this right now. I really don't fucking care. I've seen this dude's page. My nephew showed it to me. He showed me this dude's page. He's always like making videos, flaunting his money, like all these like $20, trying to show off like all his lavish gifts, like all these jeans, going to Louis Vuitton, driving all these expensive cars, like flaunting all his money. Okay, he has all that right to do that. That he earned that. Good for him. But in terms of tipping, he's a cheap motherfucker. Yeah. If people don't believe me, They don't know because I delivered the food for that guy. Another celebrity, it was not too long ago. I believe it was for Princess something. I believe that was Ray J's wife. And she only tipped me $2. And she lives in a gated community here in Porter Ranch. I'm like, what? $2. And it was for an order of McDonald's, I believe. And, celebrities, when it comes to stuff like that, when it comes to celebrities, they're like the cheapest motherfuckers. But in terms of, I remember one time, I believe it was like 2021. I was working in Calabasas, Northridge area. I'll never forget it. I was picking up an order for, I believe it was for 5 extra large pizzas. And the delivery was for around the corner, like on the other street. And it was for a kid's birthday party. And I got there, very, very cool people. And the order was, I believe, was for $10, which was fine. It turns out to be a little bit more than that. The dude gave me a $25 tip, which I thought, hey, man, thank you so much. And it's people like that who know the struggle. And they know that, yeah, we know. They say, the person say, thank you so much. I always say, when they always tip high, I always say, are you sure? And they always say, yes. Another dude was, I believe it was for Total Wine, and I delivered it to Valley Village, and he tipped me $40. I was like, what? And I said, are you sure? Yeah, because it was a long drive from Northridge to Valley Village. It's a pretty long drive, but I delivered it. He gave me a good tip. Another one, this was like my girl says, those are like one of those unicorns. It was an order from Howdy's on somewhere in Malibu Colony, and I delivered it to this like very secluded place. It was a very secluded house. And lo and behold, they tipped me $100. And I was like, what? And I was like, you don't see those too often, really. And I told my girl, she said, it was one of those rare unicorns that you get. And I firmly believe that, because even though Malibu, there's a lot of cheap people, because I remember I delivered, I believe it was McDonald's, all the way in the hills of in Malibu, like a Pacific Coast Highway, and the guy tipped me $3. And I was like, okay, and it was a nice crib, and yeah, but when it comes to non-tippers, those are the people that oh my god, this is the one thing this is another huge thing, people, that I have a huge issue with DoorDash. I've spoken this to my girl, and I've told her that the one thing that DoorDash has a tendency is they don't tell you how much the customer's tipping. They'll tell you afterwards. And I think it should be like with Instacart. It tells you how much Instacart's paying you, and it tells you how much the customer's tipping. But with DoorDash, they don't do that, and I think DoorDash should be stopped. They should review that and they're telling you how much the customer is going to tip. But right now, with this new law they're putting, it's more now. It says here, okay, other people are saying, basically trashing that chick who's saying they're trying to DoorDash forcing people to tip. Others are saying, so don't use the service. Other people say this. Well, I see your point. Until DoorDash covers certain costs, people who order knowing that the driver is a private contractor. So if you choose not to tip instead of just using the app, you, the customer, are in fact a villain. and it's true. And, I'm not going to talk about that right now, but there are certain people who are like, in terms of cheap tippers, I will not discuss that right now. I will talk about it at a later time. The same person said this. I always tip when they deliver my food. It says here, another person said this. DoorDash charges a delivery fee, service fee, plus they raise the prices of the delivery food. In parentheses, compare delivery menu to pickup menu. Usually each item is $1 or $2 more, plus tip. The automatic tip added is the only thing people can adjust, and the tip is based on higher prices, delivery fee, tax, and service charge. Something needs to change with the fee structure of the company. And that's always true because DoorDash is charging all these like fees and taxes and all that stuff, but yet they pay the workers shit. Slave wages. A slave wage. And another dude says, it's not really a tip beforehand. It's a bid for services. These people are able to choose based on mileage or if they want to go to that area. Others said this. You can edit the tip after the order. You are not committed to the tip, but it does show the driver the potential earnings. Another person said, TIPS is actually an acronym that stands for to ensure prompt service. It is the beginning phase. Tips were given ahead of time. Patrons would hail taxis and bellmen using folded bills. That is absolutely true. Another person said this. Exactly. I am notorious for leaving gracious tips on great service. DoorDash definitely needs to pay mileage or higher percentage. Now we're the cheap ones for wanting a tip afterwards or based on a delivery. And you know, there have been cases in my situation. Some people add extra money to the tip. I remember, I believe it was for Little Caesars about 2 weeks ago in the Chatsworth area. The tip was $5, and then the dude knew that it was not my fault because I was a little late because in that Little Caesars on Mason Avenue in Chatsworth, it's always notorious for being late. It's always backed up. There's always people waiting. And I told the guy, I told the customer that I apologized because it's always like cramped. It's always like I'm always late with the deliveries and they don't give it on time. And they said, no problem. I've had problems because it's always like young people who are not like being responsible. That's what he says. And he gave me $5 tip. Then probably about 3 minutes later, he gave me an extra $3, which I am very, very happy about that. So it was $5, $6. So it was $7 in total. Let me see. $5, $6, $7, $8. I'm sorry, $8 in total. And yeah, I've noticed that some people who do tip and don't tip at all. And there's a certain people who are notorious for not tipping at all. And I've actually lived through that. And I will talk about that at a future episode. Other people said this in regards to this article. Exactly. DoorDash puts up their rules up, drivers sign up and get upset at people ordering the food and not tipping, as if inflation has a thing. Some people don't drive, some people live in food deserts, but you're upset if they don't tip. Well, then unassign for a job that's tape-based. Okay, that's easy for you to say, lady. If you want your fucking food to be delivered, then go get it yourself then. It's people like, you know, that sounds so fucking entitled. And I've always had, this job has been notorious of people saying, if you say something on social media like TikTok or YouTube or Twitter, Facebook, whatever, people will comment and say, why don't you get a real job? Why is it specifically like people who say that, like older generation, like say, get a 40 hours a week job. And those are like the typical baby boomers who are stuck in that mindset. And other people will say, oh, get a real job. Okay, motherfucker, then why don't you go do it then? It is a job. You know, people who say get a real job are so fucking stupid because this is a job nonetheless. You're an independent contractor. Yes, but you're still picking out, doing something and getting paid. That's a job nonetheless. But people who say, oh, get a real job. Oh my God, I wish the people who say that would like to fucking slap him in the face for saying that. Then why don't you do it then? Stupid fucks. Others said this. You sound like someone who would look for an excuse not to tip. I'll deny your order. And, this is something that I learned by watching a lot of YouTube videos. Like, for example, there's this one girl who lives in the Las Vegas area, I believe. And she says, and they'll show how much they're paying. They say, oh, these are the non-tippers. I'm going to say no to that. Another one said this. This is how I feel with restaurants. I do tip well when I sit down, but if I get a takeout tip, I tip maybe 10%, which is usually like 50 cents to $2. I just hate the feeling of not knowing what to tip people that aren't delivering food to me nor waiting on me. Another said this. They call it a tip, but it's really not. It's a bit for service, which makes sense for something like delivery where it's about point A to point B, not kissing your butt like a server. Another one said this. I'm done with DoorDash, but IRS needs to check them out because 9 out of 10 drivers speak no English and are driving beater cars that have questionable registrations, safety inspections, insurance. Okay, fuck this guy. Well, like when it comes to says to speak no English, I'm not being racist or anything, but I've had whenever I go to restaurants to pick up orders, I speak English and I speak Spanish. I speak both languages. But there have been some instances with some fellows when they go pick up. This is the one thing I absolutely hate. With doesn't matter. I think it's whether with DoorDash, Uber Eats. They always do this. Give me 1 second. When they go up, they just take their phone and they just like shove it in the person's face, which I think is fucking bad manners. Whenever I go to a restaurant and they say, how you doing? And I say, yeah, how you doing? I'm here to pick up an order for this person's name. I don't, and if they ask me, can I see? Yeah, sure. And I show them the phone. But the majority of people who deliver food always have a tendency to just shove the phone in the server's faces or waiters' faces, which to me, in my opinion, is absolutely fucking bad manners. And I don't do that, Another dude said this. It's insane to overtip, giving DoorDash's reputation for foolishly long wait lines, wrong orders, and horrifying service once it arrives. As someone who tips on every order, I will always use Uber Eats for this reason. Uber Eats, though, pay fucking less than DoorDash. I used to work for Uber Eats also, and they pay less than with DoorDash. Another one said this. The same dude who said about said this, and the same person who wrote about like they're trying to force DoorDash to tip, and she made her page private. Says this. Another person responded to this dude. He says, I wish people would just accept that not everyone agrees with them not tipping. If you're going to refuse to tip, be happy with your decision and don't expect everyone to change so you don't feel bad about being cheap. And the same dude responded, people act like they're entitled to have their food delivered. My friends who do DoorDash, Instacart, etc. tell me that at least 60 to 70% of customers don't tip. And that is absolutely very, very true, people. Because whenever I don't get a tip, that kind of like it's less money for me that I make for the day. And for the people who don't like to tip, okay, and they say that those are the same people who don't tip always say that people get a real job. Okay, if you don't like the tip, why don't you go get the food yourself? Think about this for 1 second. You're complaining about how everything is expensive, like you don't want to tip. Okay, then why don't you go get it yourself then? To the same people who are so fucking cheap and tipping. As I said before, tipping is not an obligation. I have said that numerous times. But I do feel, however, though, that we should at least get appreciated with tipping. Like we get a little bit of extra, you know? But the majority of people who don't like to tip are always like saying, "Oh, you should be lucky to have a job and this and that. Get a real job." Motherfucker, why are you using a delivery service then? And someone else, I've tried so hard to find this comment and said that to a degree that DoorDash, Uber Eats, Postmates, Instacart are all luxury service. And I do agree. It is a luxury service. I mean, okay, for example, when I do, it's been a while. I still do shop and deliver, but not as much anymore in the Chatsworth area. I don't know what happened. When I used to work in the Burbank area, I would say 65 to 70% of orders were always shop and deliver. I would always do those. And when I work in the Calabasas Northridge area, I would say that I would when I work for the week, I would only say I would get probably at least just 3 shop and deliver orders for the week. Whereas with when I used to work in Burbank, I used to do like at least like maybe like 17 to 14. Hell, even one time I did like 20 shop and deliver orders for the entire week. And that was a lot. But in the Chatsworth area, I get those like very rarely now. And other people are saying this. This person said this. That's terrible. I tip usually 18 to 20%. I don't know how I'd survive with my mobility issues without my grocery shoppers and meal delivers. Tipping is the least I can do to show my gratitude. And people like that know the struggle. And you know, waiters, bartenders, especially waiters and bartenders, live off tips more than the regular salary that the restaurant gives them. But some people still don't care though. They say, "Oh," and they just like okay, look. Especially in this day and age, if I get tipped $1, I don't know. I think that's kind of insulting for me. But compared to no tip, I would just rather get the $1. That's just my opinion. And I don't know, like right now, I think I'll bet dollars to donuts right now that since DoorDash has made this new law, people are just going to keep complaining and say, "Oh, I'm not going to order with DoorDash and such because they're forcing people to tip." Okay, and if you don't want to tip, then don't use the service anymore, people. You know, one person said this. Wait a minute, people don't tip when they use DoorDash. What the fuck? Go and get it yourself then. And a person responded, "Not just DoorDash. I work for all the big pizza chains and waited tables, and some people won't tip no matter what. You deliver in an ice storm, tropical storm, during a tornado warning, it doesn't matter to them. Even stiff on orders over $100, they just don't care." The same person responded, "This is crazy to me. I love that DoorDash gives you the option for an additional tip for fast service." And that has been the case in the past. But recently, I have done fast service, and I still don't. And then people don't still give me an extra. But like I said, there's nothing I can do. I can't, like, tipping is not an obligation nonetheless. You know? But like right now, since they put this new law on DoorDash, I am very, very glad. And a lot of people are actually complaining about that. You know? That people, "Oh, it's too expensive." Like, and then don't use the fucking service then, you know? Do not use the fucking service at all. You know? But let's see where this goes. And I hope right now people will at least appreciate the Dashers, the food delivery service. Doesn't matter if it's for DoorDash, for Postmates, Uber Eats, Instacart, whatever. I think DoorDash has started something. Right now shit just got real with DoorDash. And right now people are gonna feel the heat saying, if you don't want to tip, then don't use the service. And I'm actually glad that DoorDash did that, you know. I am absolutely, like, DoorDash I'm not a fan of, but now after what they did, I actually, you know what they say, I applaud them. I sincerely applaud DoorDash for doing that. Well, that about wraps up for this week's podcast. Before I finish this episode, I want to tell a little bit of a story right now. Right now, I am, like, you could say, a little bit heartbroken. I would say this, put it this way, people. The month of October has been hell for me because I don't have a car. Right now, I am working, but I have no car of my own. I'm using my loved one's car, but for the time being, but that's taking a toll on me in terms of my gas money and such. But right now, something happened with my mother. My mother has her own little business of janitorial, and my mom, after 12 years working for these people, this last Friday, she was terminated. And I kid you not, I'm actually heartbroken for my mom, you know. I'm very heartbroken that my mom is always, she's very, very calm, and she is worried nonetheless in terms of, like, that was like a big source of income. But my mom is not worried at all, but my brother and me, we're both very, very worried. And me personally, I would say, angry that my mom gave 12 years of working with these people, and then all of a sudden just fired, like terminated, just like that. I don't know. It's just heartbreaking for me that my mom. You know, it's just like with when you work at a corporation or a company, you work for them X amount of years, then all of a sudden, boom, they'll say, okay, well, you did a good job, but we no longer need you. They just throw them out like if you're nothing, you're not worth anything anymore. But I'm sorry, it's just I actually kind of like broke down today because I felt bad for my mom. My mom was like, "Don't worry, son, everything will be okay." And I understand, you know, my mom's a very strong woman, and she'll always plan ahead and do much better in life. But it's just like, for me personally, it just sucks that my mom gave 12 years of her life working for these people, and just like throw her like she's nothing, like she's not worth anything anymore. I don't, like, me personally, I don't know. Whatever, you know. It is what it is, you know, but it's just like, I just want to say my mom will get through this, you know. She'll get through this. And let's see what the future holds for my mom. So Just want to tell you that my mom she's doing great. And yeah, let's see what happens. I know my mom's going to get through this. And I will be here. I will be there to support her nonetheless. 1,000%. So that about wraps up for this week's podcast. I will be back next Monday. Once again, happy Halloween and always be safe. And I will keep you posted more on this topic because this is a major shakeup right now that DoorDash right now is going to put into customers who don't want to tip. So let's see what happens. Once again, happy Halloween and to everyone who listens, have a great night and always be safe. Good night.